Can we watch Jimmy the Giant's video that kind of talks about this? Sure. Let me see. Which one? Did I escape the alt-right just to be brainwashed? This is the one you're talking about, right? He put me in the title too. I mean, he put me in the thumbnail.
You go down to the pool that I have jumped out of the alt-right pipe. This video is brought to you by Lies of the Left. When are you dropping How I Escaped the Alt-Left Pipeline? Woke crap. Since I made that video, Escaping the Alt-Right Pipeline, there has been a claim that's kicking around that I have jumped out of the alt-right pipeline and landed slap bang in the far left.
Can you clear for the haters? Are you demonized or do you choose not to run ads? I choose not to run ads, but I am also demonized.
Alt-left pipeline. In this video, I want to talk about that. I want to talk as well about what the direction of this channel is, how you guys can help. Yes, that means I'm setting up a Patreon and I'm going to ask you for money. But not just that, right? We're going to talk about the culture wars, the evolution of wokeism, and most importantly, am I now woke?
Yes, my favorite small YouTuber who only posts obscure content finally uploaded again. Is this submarine sort of woke now? Don't tell me that isn't a woke-shaped submarine. Trying new stuff, I guess. Sorry, I didn't know the Walt Disney Company is making submarines and it looks less...
I figured I'd start this video out with me doing my political compass. I did it on stream, and when the results came in... Shit. God, I'm a fucking lefty. That's mental. That's insane. I can't believe it, bruv. Yeah, I guess I am pretty left.
For those of you who don't know, Jimmy the Giant used to be, by his own admission, he's someone I interviewed as well, by his own admission, someone who was like firmly in the alt-right. And he is at his own personal journey where he's become a little bit of a lefty, also by his own admission.
Now, look, I'm going to make my excuses. The problem I found with these tests when you do them is that it sort of doesn't account for new...
I think it's impressive that you focus on problematic content creators and drop them once it more or less gets resolved. More or less resolved. I mean, it fucking rarely ever gets resolved, unfortunately, but yes.
Once, because me, as an individual, I can be very critical of unregulated capitalism. However, I really like capitalism. I really like businesses. I like it in many industries. I like when people come up with innovative businesses and they create cool shit. I think without checks and balances, capitalism has some nasty tendencies. Competition in capitalism can drive innovation, but I believe in order to actually have real competition, you have to have things built in to stop the 1% of wealthiest people hoarding all of the wealth.
Everyone calm down, okay? Let him talk. Like, you don't have to immediately go, this man is an ideological enemy. Like, just chill out. This is what I mean about charitability, okay? This is literally what I mean about being charitable to people. You're talking about a dude who was like a couple of years ago saying like, we got to save England from the scourge of unrestricted migration. And then the moment where he's like, I've gotten out of all that stuff. And I still think that like capitalism is good. I like cool shit that they invent. He's not a card carrying commie. Like, you know, I guess he's an enemy, you know? He doesn't, not a card carrying commie who wants a permanent first world side. This is crazy.
I believe a state should control its utilities, like private billionaires maybe shouldn't own our water supply, our rail, our electricity, etc. But you see, these political compass tests, they don't let you type out your answer. It's basically, is capitalism exploitative? Yes or no? So you just have to take my word for it that practically and politically, I am a social democrat. I believe in the sort of Bernie Sanders, the Nordic model, but the graph says I'm far left, so fuck it, I'll own it, I'm far left. But you see, this does lead on questions. Firstly, why am I not a communist? And secondly, and much more importantly, am I woke?
Almond milk. All I want's proper bloody milk, not left-wing options, proper milk. What's wrong with me asking for that?
To answer...
It's a war on proper milk, lads. It's a war on dairy. Save England. It is pretty funny because, like, this is why I do Hogwatch, right? Because there is so much unlimited potential. It's an untapped vein of content. Right-wingers are constantly hilarious, organically, without even trying. That's why I think it's good to, like, sometimes laugh at them when they come out and do dumb shit like this, okay? It's just... It is a very successful mechanism of propaganda, the way that like right-wingers do this to some of the edge cases on the left.
These questions, I'm going to tell you a very long and drawn out story to extend the retention time on this video.
Some of these, and some of these. Almost there, Now let's see how it looks so far.
Alright, imagine this. You made it to summer, you managed to not top yourself during the British winter, and you go on holiday to Croatia.
Croatia is beautiful.
Look at it. Oh my god, what's that thing in the sky? Where's the rain? Where's the grey? Why is it not all grey? It's your first day and you think, you know what, f it, we're not going to do the bags, we're going to leave them in the hotel room and let's just go to the pool. And you're feeling good, right? You walk down, you're British, so obviously you've already got a beer in your hand at 10 a.m. And as you walk down to the swimming pool and you look for a sun lounger, you peer over your sunglasses and you notice there's f***ing towels everywhere. You know what? I'm not going to get mad. Fair enough. It's a busy day. I'm a bit late. My fault. Should have got there earlier. So tomorrow I'll wake up early and I'll try again. Tomorrow comes. You wake up early, 8 a.m. and you go down to the pool and you notice there's f***ing towels on every sun lounger, Barry. Why are there towels everywhere? And what's worse is that about 40% of the sun loungers are empty. No one's sitting on them. Compared to the amount of people in the swimming pool, there are enough sun loungers to go around for everyone. However, because people keep putting their towels to reserve them, there's none available. So what do? Tomorrow, you set your alarm clock for 7 a.m. the moment that the pool opens and you arm yourself with all the towels you can get. You sprint down to the pool, you beat everyone. Ha ha! I did it! And in that moment of triumph, you realise, shit, I went from a nice, community-loving proletariat into this individualist, hyper-competitive, petty bourgeoisie.
You've changed, man.
This right here is what happens in a society with no regulations. The greedy, self-interested individual can literally dictate an entire culture upon people who would actually not mind sharing.
We're all watching it because we're all horrified that we've had to do this every day on holiday, Lella. This has ruined my holiday.
You all know him. Everyone knows that greedy guy in the group. They don't really care that everyone else has enough. All they care about is making sure that them and their family have what they need when they want it, whenever they want it.
Could you, sir, do you mind not looking at me like that all the time? It's really disturbing.
This small minority of people, their behaviour makes a ripple effect, which causes people to respond in defence, mirroring their competitive behaviour that otherwise they probably don't want to mirror. But they do so due to fear of scarcity. I mean, just think about it in your life. Like, during COVID, this happened with the toilet paper, right? Everyone was scared that they'd have none for when they needed a dump. And despite the news repeatedly telling us we have no shortage of toilet paper, the shelves are empty because people were panic buying.
As soon as you see some people buying more than they need to, you start thinking, will there be enough for me?
And when you're in the shops yourself, you can see that people are panicking, so you're starting to panic as well. It's more of a follow the crowd sort of thing.
In a plea to customers, they said, "We need your help. There is enough for everyone if we all work together."
Now look, this is all very tragic, right? Our beautiful, lovely Croatian resort. The poor people that just want a nice holiday. They all convene, right? All the pool goers, they convene and they discuss, how do we fix this problem? And they come to a genius conclusion of maybe we should employ a few staff members to monitor all of the sun loungers and make sure that people aren't reserving them with their towels. And we make sure that we have enough sun loungers to go around. Yeah, well done lads, did it. You had your big revolution, Pooltopia's established, brilliant. But you know, look, some time passes and like new generations are born into this Pooltopia. And as we're sat enjoying a cocktail late into the evening, old granddad, the proletariat, he's telling stories to his young petty bourgeoisie grandchildren. Listen here, Michael, back when I was your age, right? You won't bloody believe it, mate, but we used to have to wake up 7 a.m. to come down here and put towels to get a sun lounger. It was a nightmare. I'm telling you, it was a nightmare. Ruined the holiday. All right, granddad, go to sleep. And one day, granddad does go to sleep. And he doesn't wake up again. And slowly we forget.
They're off. Look at them. They're off. Look at them.
The younger petty bourgeoisie, they never had to fight for their sun lounger. They grew up in good times and they started to have their own ideas of how this Pooltopian economy should operate. My friends of Pooltopia, I have a question. Why do we have these tyrannical pool chair Stasi policing and monitoring our every towel placement? Do they think we're children? This very persuasive speaker rallies the Pooltopian economy into firing the chair guards. And so what they do in turn of the guards is instead place nice shiny signposts on the walls saying, No putting towels on sun loungers. And the signs look great, right? They're brilliant and everyone's following them. But at the end of the day, they are just signs. One day, as they rush down to the pool to jump on a sun lounger, they notice that there's some towels already on the sun lounger. That's weird. It's probably nothing to worry about, probably just some keen beans going for a morning swim. And then they wake up the next day and they notice more towels are on the sun loungers. And the next day, and the next day. And just like that, the cycle resets. The towel wars return. And somewhere far away, Grandad Proletariat is rolling over on his heavenly sun lounger and thinking, I tried to warn him. Before we go any further, I want to give a massive shout out to Squarespace for sponsoring today's video. Squarespace is undoubtedly the best platform for making your own beautiful, perfect website. With their new design intelligence, which combines the newest AI technology, and their many years of understanding how to craft unique website templates, you can now literally just type prompts into the AI and it will make an entirely bespoke website template for you and your brand. And also what's so helpful if you're selling products online is their payment systems. They accept so many different types of payments from Klarna, ACH direct debit, Apple Pay, and you can even do buy now, pay later with Afterpay and ClearPay. And also, if you don't love writing like product descriptions or whatever, you can use their AI to generate descriptions for you. Also, if you're not that great at copywriting and putting like product descriptions in, Squarespace's Blueprint AI means you can bang in a prompt to ask it to make a description and it'll shoot out some really good copy and you can just tweak it to how you like it. So be sure to head over to squarespace.com/Jimmy the Giant, and to get 10% off your first purchase of a website or a domain, use the code Jimmy the Giant. Anyway, back to the video. Thank you guys. Don't worry, you don't need to give me a round of applause. I know, it was a masterful analogy. This concept and this thought of like how power struggles in politics eternally have battles was encapsulated perfectly by the aristocratic socialist MP, Tony Benn.
I'm old now, and the older I get, the more I realise every single generation has to fight the same battles again and again and again. There's no final victory and there's no final defeat.
This right here is where I personally separate from, say, communists and real far left people. They will point to like the 1900s, right, where people are working in these brutal factories for pennies, living in slums, and then from incredible hard-fought battles politically, by the 1950s, these same types of people were given free social housing, free healthcare, free education, and it was great. It led to 30 years of the longest continued economic growth we've ever.
Yeah. The issue here, of course, is that all of those gains were hard fought, right? By communists, by socialists and trade unionists, like a coalition of people that had a range of ideology. And they were bloody battles, both here in the United States and also in the entirety of the Western world. The issue, however, is that while it took a while to claw back all of those social safety nets, ultimately capitalism won. Ultimately, capital owners won. They had their wishes. They were able to get their wishes because there is an extent to social democracy. There is an extent to how much. There is a limit to how many gains you can make, and social democrats will oftentimes reflect on the. Social democrats right now reflect on the social safety nets that were fought for by people that were infinitely more radical than they are, not recognizing that the advocacy for capitalism that they maintain, the posture that they have towards capitalism, is ironically the reason why those safety nets that they want to bring back now are getting taken away from them. This is why a lot of hardline Marxists will understandably say that the welfare state structure is simply a lifeline for capitalism, a band-aid solution. And it is true. There is truth to this.
We've ever had. We drastically reduced inequality. There was very few economic collapses. However, this incredible progress was completely reversed.
Socialists don't like to do things for themselves. Socialists like to get...
It's also the stupidest arguments, like... I can't stand it. I'm no elitist by any means. I myself will voluntarily recognize how stupid I am, how many limitations I have. But god damn, the stupidity of anti-socialist thought truly frustrates me, because it reminds me that you don't have to be particularly brilliant. You don't have to be particularly smart. You can just basically say the dumbest things possible, and the overwhelming majority of Western society will agree with you when it comes to being anti-communist, anti-socialist, and the like. That's it. You can say anything you want about socialism and what it truly means, what it means in practice, or what it means in theory, and people will just go, yep, that seems right to me, because other people have also said that before me, and I'm just taking it for granted without ever actually thinking about things in a different way.
Get people dependent on the state.
Also, Margaret Thatcher isn't a particularly stupid person, okay? Margaret Thatcher is evil, albeit fairly intelligent. It's just even intelligent people can very easily dial back their intelligence and talk about socialism in the stupidest ways possible, and the majority of people will eat that up.
Never build a great society that way. We were the first country to attempt and to succeed in rolling back the frontiers of socialism, which is the first cousin to communism.
By the 70s, when Thatcher came in, the wealthy classes managed to undo a lot of this progress, stripping back welfare states, privatizing publicly owned assets. And the communists will argue that the reason this happened is because we didn't go full communist. And I agree with them. However, I personally don't believe that there is an eternal solution.
Western leftists often ignore the majority of the world population being brutally exploited in the global south. Social democracy requires this exploitation. Yes. Another thing that I ironically tried to have a normal, productive discussion with Ethan on the Leftovers podcast back when we had a podcast was that social democracy can only exist in the ways that it does with hyper exploitation of the global south. There's no other way to have a social democracy. And on the domestic front, there's obviously always going to be exploitation of the domestic working population and a consistent, concerted effort by organized, class-conscious billionaires, millionaires, and capital owners alike to claw back those beautiful, bountiful social democratic welfare state extensions that you have taken for granted. And as that goes away, you will become more radicalized. You will become more reactionary because there's a lot of economic instability that comes from that. And if there is no socialism or socialists in your country that are telling you, no, this is fucked up. These people are stealing from us. They're stealing all of the benefits that we fought long and hard for so that they can make a tidy profit by privatizing these previously state-owned enterprises. If there's none of that, and there's unfortunately none of that in Europe, because capitalism won, communism lost. Let's be real. That's what the Cold War did. All that remains is right-wing populist sentiment. You're angry and you should be angry. Why should you be angry? Because immigrants are coming in. Immigrants are stealing what remains of the coffers of the government. They're stealing from you. It's other poor people that are stealing. You are a hardworking white man and you work long and hard days only to get fucked over. And who's fucking you over? People on the dole. Who's fucking you over? Immigrants that are coming in and stealing your minuscule social safety nets.
Personally don't believe it. On some level, no matter how much you achieve, how much you raise living standards, how much you structure your democracy to be as representative and democratic as possible, ruthless actors will still find a way to give themselves more power and control. When the problems of the past are fixed, the younger generation forget the struggle that it took to get there. And you can see this on the other side, when you flip over to like right-wing libertarian attitudes to capitalism. Many of the American right sort of follow this idea, like Ben Shapiro. But then in Britain, we have like with the Reform Party, Rupert Lowe and Nigel Farage, who often talk about removing the welfare state. They criticize disability benefits a lot. Some of them want to privatize the NHS. This ideology, this sort of libertarian ideology, completely forgets the reason why these things exist in the first place. Wait a second, why does it? exist? Isn't it just one big waste of money?
Well, first of all, the number of people who will suffer is likely to be very, very small. Private charity, private efforts will provide support for the vast majority of people who would be poor in the absence of some kind of support. And when government does it, it creates an air of entitlement that leads to more and more demand for redistribution till everyone becomes a ward of the state.
Well, look, let's talk about that. So let's say we have some bloody libertarian revolution, and we create the Free State of Britannica, sponsored by Meta. In this amazing libertarian utopia, we all go out and we make our own little businesses. I open a little shop selling gamer goo. You open a gallery displaying NFTs. And like, you know, we still have a government because we're not complete anarchists, but it's a very small government. There's no welfare programs, there's no free healthcare, there's none of this stuff. All there is a few politicians to stop monopolies forming, because even libertarians understand that monopolies are bad. And what's this all going great?
Do they? They say in theory that monopolies are bad, but I mean, the reality of the matter is, libertarianism or any kind of deregulation actively moves the needle in the direction. As a matter of fact, the reason why monopolies currently exist in the United States of America and all around the planet is not because the government created them, but it's oftentimes because there is a tremendous amount of deregulation that allows companies to take advantage of the marketplace and engage in predatory practices, undercutting the competition, and then purchasing them once they go bankrupt. Amazon is a perfect example of this in the e-commerce field, where Amazon is a monopoly in the e-commerce field.
And we're all trading and doing our thing. A guy appears, right? His name is Shelon Crust. Shelon invents a brain chip that can cure your existential loneliness. Amazing! What a great innovation! What a genius! The market should reward him for his incredible contributions to humanity. And so, Shelon becomes incredibly wealthy.
But you're trying to do good things and you're a billionaire. I mean, yeah, that seems a little bit like either superhero or supervillain. You have to choose one.
And because he owns this chip, he's able to spread his ideas on his platform and push them to everyone. And he starts pushing some ideas of how society should function. Weird, different ideas with like strange hand signals and stuff.
Okay,
And what Shelon does, because he's so wealthy, he actually manages to find a very charismatic politician. And that politician is called Ronald Rump. And he becomes the president. And all of a sudden, Shelon starts bending the laws to suit him. The government, who are meant to be like, you know, not involved in the economy, they start imposing tariffs on Shelon's competitors. He even manages to make the politicians agree to taxing the people, and those taxes go to funding his big projects. And very quickly, Shelon just starts building this non-competitive monopoly. But wait a fucking sec, hang on a second. In our libertarian economy, you're not meant to do that, it's against the rules. Shelon doesn't give a fuck about your lame little rule book, and he's made enough money and has enough power to do whatever he wants.
This is the chainsaw for bureaucracy.
And what's worse, right, is because you made the government so small and so weak, you actually stripped away all of its powers to protect the people from Shelon's red pill rage.
Dogma!
Very quickly, Shelon starts exploiting the working class. And bada bing, bada boom, well done, you recreated the 1900s.
I mean, I look at what you do, you walk in and you just say, you want to quit? They go on strike. I won't mention the name of the company, but they go on strike and you say, that's okay, you're all gone.
You see, this is the big problem, right, with libertarian theory, is that built into libertarian theory is this belief that cultural values alone and market competition are enough to guide morality.
I mean, it's liberalism that's base boosted. That's what it is, you know? Good, bad dynamics, like assuming that some people are intrinsically good, some people are intrinsically bad. Bad people do bad things for evil reasons. Good people do good things for good reasons. And also simultaneously that like some other idealistic spiritual reason will actually hold this entire process together. That's why I get frustrated whenever people say like communists are collectivist. They don't care about the individual, or they'll say things like the man's nature is inherently greedy. It's like, yeah, a materialist understanding of the world or a Marxist perspective is not inherently collectivist. It ultimately wants individuals to have personal freedoms, more personal freedoms that are currently allotted under this existing organization of the economy. Yeah, cultural values. Cultural values enough to control exploitation. Are you a baby? Yes, they are. They are a baby. And just like a baby, they think that even though currently, I don't know, they work at a fucking Jiffy Lube, that they're going to magically turn around in this like deregulated a god, become a demigod amongst men. It's like, oh man, once the government stops holding me back, dude, I'm going to be one of the rulers too. It's like, no, you won't. You will be a slave. You are currently a wage slave. And in the next evolution under a, I don't know, fascist, anarcho-capitalist dystopia, you will be a slave that inevitably gets sent to the glue factory. You're currently a wage slave and you can't even see that. Why the fuck do you think your situation is going to get better? You're currently advocating for your own demise as it stands. You're going to turn into a battery cell. They're going to melt you into biomatter. I'm telling you right now.
Would
it be different in a communist state? Yes. The entire purpose, the entire principle behind not just a communist state, but anti-capitalist thought and anti-capitalist action is quite literally to change the current existing hierarchy. It automatically is beneficial for the average working class individual. Okay? That's it. If you are truly someone who is self-interested and you are currently a wage laborer, you have one of two options. You either fantasize that one day you will be a ruler, you will be a part of the ruler class, you will be a capitalist, and, you know, then those working poors better look out because I'm going to be ruthless, right? You either fantasize about that every day, or you recognize your current standing in society, you recognize the class dynamic, and you choose to undermine it. You choose to work against it. You choose to, for your best interest, create systems where you can advocate for more, create systems where you can demand more from your bosses. For example, the profits, the surplus labor value that you contribute to the company, you can get more of that back. But it will never happen because you asked kindly enough. It will only happen if you get together and you say, hey, all of us, without us, you don't really have much. Okay? You don't really have much. You just have a factory. You have tools at your disposal. You have upfront capital. But value can only be created with all of us working on the assembly line. Without us, you have no value. That's just sitting there and it's depreciating. Those are depreciating assets. So we want more. We want more in return that you are taking from us. Currently, as it stands, we want more benefits. We want more of the profits, a larger share of the profits that we're generating for you. The only way to get that is through collective bargaining and, if push comes to shove, showing your worth to the company with collective action, work stoppages, a strike.
Individual people to not exploit each other, as opposed to having heavy rules and regulations. But I mean, just look through history. Look at every civilization ever. History shows us that powerful, rich business people exploit workers wherever they can, unless the state steps in to stop it.
You have security cameras right behind you at all times that are looking at you 24/7. And if you don't meet standards or the rates, you're out the door. You're just disposable.
Even Margaret Thatcher,
No way, man. A socialist state always changes one hierarchy of the plutocracy billionaires to the government bureaucrats. It's one hierarchy over another, and they both debase individually. Yeah. Do you have an alternative? What's your alternative? Are you an anarchist? Is that what your alternative is? Like, this notion is hilarious. We currently exist in the fucking plutocracy of billionaires. You're making it seem as though under a socialist state that the government bureaucrats become the billionaires. Okay? The greatest example of this not being true is even when a country attempts to engage in a transitional socialist state like China, while there are still a tremendous number of issues in China in terms of its governance, in terms of its domestic policies, there is obviously better even development. Okay? It just is the truth. a truth that many Americans refuse to recognize. Many people in the Western world refuse to recognize that reality. Now, is China perfect? Far from it. Of course not. But with the limited amount of resources that they've had over an incredibly short period of time, they've been able to become a competitive global superpower that is seemingly going to outcompete the United States of America in a matter of a couple years, if it's not already outcompeting the United States of America. How did that happen? Individuality. They both debase individuality is a silly centrist attitude to have in this process. You're imagining that socialism will create a new hierarchy, but then give the awesome power that capitalist billionaires have to government bureaucrats. All of a sudden, government bureaucrats are living in this living with incredible amounts of power, and your lives will still be dominated no matter what. Sure, there's a moral justification of that hierarchy based on the general good that ultimately concentrates power and abuses it. Yeah, I'm willing and able to concentrate power and abuse it at your behest. What I mean by that is, no matter how much wealthy people have told you that it would be terrifying to have public housing, I'm going to give that to you, whether you like it or not, okay? You might complain all day, every day about, oh no, we can't have socialized medicine in this country. That's devastating. That's terrifying. Yeah, guess what, dude? You're going to have it and you're going to like it. Doesn't fucking matter to me. And I'll give you an example of how you actually do like it. Are you ready? People with my mindset and the mindset of many others in this community have fought long and hard for a lot of the amenities that you don't like. Child labor. Child labor is hyper exploitative. It's ridiculous. Well, thank a fucking union for that. Thank the communists for that, for fighting long and hard through literal labor militancy, through battles with blood, sweat, and tears. You like the weekend? Thank a union for that. Thank some communists for that, okay? Do you enjoy the weekend? Do you enjoy, like, you have a sense of autonomy, a sense of purpose, a sense of humanity that you recover in that time frame? That is precisely because people older than you, okay, your great-great-great-great-grandparents fought long and fucking hard to get that, okay? It does not happen because people are kind and ask for it in a kind manner. It doesn't work that way. You like a 40-hour work week? Okay, thank a labor union for that. Thank communists for that. Thank socialists for that. There are already so many things that you personally enjoy, that you personally like, that you personally take for granted, that people have actually actively fought for. Those are good policies, but you can't disregard the reality of the risk of those hierarchies. We need social support and investment. We need universal healthcare and education, but that doesn't mean there won't be a debasement of individuals as cannon fodder for the ruling class. You exist in a world where you also, by your own admission, recognize that there's a ruling class that does not care about you, and then you fantasize about potentially another ruling class that will force more egalitarian policies upon you, but then you still fantasize about them dominating you somehow. I keep getting network errors on your stream only. What WTF? I don't know. I don't know why it's happening.
The icon of neoliberal philosophy. In her dying days, she regretted some of the forces that she unleashed through neoliberalism.
Some of the arrogant displays of wealth jarred very much with me and with the Prime Minister.
The capitalists have given Margaret Thatcher a bad name because she did not believe in excess. She believed in responsibility.
In a system with no rules, power will always win. And power doesn't care about your cute free market fantasy. It cares about control and domination.
The free market has never existed. It is a figment of the imagination of people. The market is a system that favors the rich, which is why the rich love markets.
So, like, with all that in mind, that's the very extreme libertarians and the very extreme communists. It leaves me in this weird place where I, in one part of my brain, understand and accept that we do have the logistical and technical ability to literally create a utopian world, to give everyone what they need. But unfortunately, I believe that despite that, human nature stops us from achieving it. Self-interested individuals will do what they can to break anything good that we have.
Yeah, here's the difference, though. Self-interest is at the forefront of socialist thought, but absent of class consciousness, you will always advocate for your own demise when you talk about greed and self-interest as a way to maintain the capitalist organization of the economy as a working class individual. This is baked into our collective consciousness. Not only is human nature and self-interest not the end-all be-all, and I think that the entire history of humanity proves that we have always, like, there's no notion of like a natural state of being for humans. After all, what is natural about skyscrapers or airplanes or fucking astronauts going to the International Space Station? None of that is natural. The entire existence of human nature is to overcome the natural predispositions. This is why it's considered a logical fallacy to apply naturalism as a argument. Okay, everything we do is destroying nature. Now, having said that, I hate this take of yours. Wait, what? Why? You said spit, and then you said I hate this take of yours. But having said that, there is an argument you can make. There's a selfish argument you can make for socialism. There are more of us than there are of them. There are more people who are wage laborers than there are people who own capital. The problem is people who own capital do, under capitalism, run the countries, run the organization of the economy. They run everything. And the entire system under capitalism is designed to keep the existing structure the way it is. That's it. So if people were more selfish, wage laborers were more selfish, if they could have some class consciousness to recognize where they are in current society and advocated for their best interest, they unironically would be able to bring about a potential socialist change, a socialist revolution, if you will. The problem, of course, is that it is incredibly difficult when there is a lot of effort to divide the working class along numerous boundaries. The easiest ones, of course, are to instill panic amongst the white working class and black working class, instill panic amongst immigrant laborers versus domestic labor. You know, I don't know why there's a constant network error happening. I can't look into it, chatter. I don't know why. Here, this is my girls love dictator Hasan arc. Yeah, I'm gonna be authoritarian. Okay, I'm gonna be this is oh, I reposted this already. Okay, authoritarian right now. Let me tell you something. I am going to in an authoritarian manner. I'm gonna force free healthcare on you. I'm gonna force free healthcare. That's sweet free healthcare on you. It doesn't matter if you don't like it. You're gonna be like, no, I want to die to curable, treatable diseases. I want to die. I'm like, no, you're not. You're not gonna have medical bankruptcy. I don't give a fuck if you like it or not. Okay, you get to have no say in this process. I'm the dictator, and you know what I'm dictating? Free fucking healthcare for you, bitch. Don't give a fuck. You can complain about it all day, every day, but you're gonna get it, and you're gonna get a free college education as well, and an opportunity for a jobs program, okay? A federal jobs program where you can have great benefits on top of that. You can fucking say, I don't want it. No, I hate those things. I don't care. Yes, that's going to happen regardless. And you know what else I'm going to do? I'm going to punish the fucking wealthy. I'm going to punish the super wealthy, corrupt capitalists, okay? I'm going to punish them. Oh, I'm sorry. Did you sell spoiled baby formula knowing full well that it was spoiled? Guess what? You're going to jail, bitch. Oh, I'm sorry, Sackler family. Did you actually fucking create a massive opiates crisis? Well, guess what? We're not giving you a slap on the wrist, okay? You're going to prison. That is my dream, okay? Whether you like it or not, you're getting these things. You're getting these fucking benefits. You obviously haven't lived in a society with universal healthcare. I have. It sucks. I grew up in Turkey, a much poorer country than the United States of America. And let me tell you, okay, public health existing, like a national healthcare structure existing, even though there is also still private insurance in Turkey, is still wonderful. Were you an adult in Turkey who had to pay taxes and you're rich and your family is rich, so don't pretend you understand the impact of those taxes? Yeah, rich people famously love paying taxes. Yeah, it's actually a very common advocacy from rich people to advocate for higher taxes so you can pay for fucking social safety nets for the poor. Famously, that's what rich people always advocate for. I can't comprehend how you can ever say universal healthcare sucks. It just doesn't make any sense to me. Anyway, let's continue with this. But after that, we're gonna talk about potentially the Wartime Immigrant Act.
Benefit themselves. And that applies to even what I advocate for, the system of social democracy. Even if you achieve it, it will eventually become undone. I think you even see this starting to happen in some of the Scandinavian countries, where there's more privatization happening and stripping back of their welfare state. I just think you have to build a state that protects us from that as much as is possible.
There is no destination called justice or democracy, and if you catch a train driven by the right man, you'll get there. Every generation has to fight it.
All of that understanding brings us to now, 2025, where we're in like this very weird time politically. So whilst wages have stagnated for the last 15 years, houses now cost 10 times the average annual salary, all the while corporations are making record profits, whilst people can't afford heating, the middle class is shrinking, the poor are getting poorer. Despite all this, society seems to consider the most important problem of our time is which bathroom does a trans person take a shit in?
You don't agree with gender-neutral loos?
No, not at all. I think they're extremely dangerous.
And bro, I'm not judging. I was one of these culture warriors. I was deep in all this stuff. But how did that happen? Well, this is where things get a little bit interesting. And it all started in 2008.
But we are underway, and I do mean underway.
We're essentially down by 4-5%. Down over 16%, 18%, 21%.
43%.
Traders here working the phone say a lot of their customers are freaked out, waiting to see how low the Dow will go. They're focused on the Dow, not so focused on OPEC. Yes, OPEC did.
After the financial crash, where big banks committed financial terrorism, gambling on people's homes and crashing the economy, this resulted in mass unemployment, rising inequality, and the destruction of working class people's savings. When I was growing up, they referred to this as the credit crunch. The biggest financial crash that has happened since the Great Depression, they had branded it like it was a breakfast bar.
Oh, cool, no doubt.
This crash led to the taxpayer bailing out the banks. In America, it was up to $700 billion. In the UK, it was £137 billion, with a £1 trillion safety net to protect the banks from collapsing. And so, Goldman Sachs, JP Morgan, Lehman Brothers, the banks who tanked the global economy were saved by taxpayer money, whilst the working class saw the greatest cuts they'd seen in generations via austerity. And people noticed this pretty quickly. People were starting to wake up to the fact that unregulated capitalism as it currently existed is fucked. Public rage was brewing, and the ruling class was starting to get scared that real change might occur that would upset the current order in which they benefited from. And so in 2011, we start to see the people organizing, and we see Occupy Wall Street. Occupy Wall Street, all day, all week. Suddenly, people aren't just pissed off and protesting, they're now naming names. The 1% becomes a mainstream concept.
1 in 7 children in the United States suffer from hunger. At the same time, we're giving billions and almost $1 trillion to Wall Street just for bailouts. We need an economy for the people and by the people, not by the rich and for the rich.
People are noticing that the politicians that they had to choose between were being funded by the same banks that just broke the economy. All the while, this left-wing populist movement was starting to grow, and they were demanding things like higher taxes, stronger labor rights, and universal healthcare. And so the ruling class realized that they needed a distraction.
Welcome to the Glenn Beck program. Tonight, the truth about social justice and distorting its meaning. No. We're going to correct its meaning.
We have like, God, right-wingers have used so many crackheads to just like actively belittle and dismantle any kind of like left-wing populism. And liberals have so gladly allowed that to happen. Liberals have also simultaneously been like, yeah, no, that's great. Like they've complained about Glenn Beck. They've complained about him, right? But they also totally allowed right-wingers, as they did consistently, and as they did with the Black Lives Matter movement as well, liberals in positions of power have always taken note from the right on how to undermine leftist movements. historically, this is just how they've always operated. This is why there's the famous adage of, cut a liberal and a fascist bleeds, because they find themselves aligned with right-wingers and fascists time and time again when push comes to shove, when there's economic volatility, economic instability, and they are worried about capitalism becoming undone. Same shit happened with Bernie Sanders, where you saw liberals lose their minds at the prospect of a Bernie-style figure.
In the mid-2010s, something weird started to happen to the left. Social justice movements started to explode. We'd see Me Too, Black Lives Matter, increasing LGBTQ activism, and this movement starts to grow, and you see it in things like university and corporate HR departments, where they would start to implement diversity and inclusion initiatives. And some of this was very well intended, and some of it was purely performative.
Remember summer 2020, when our social media was filled with those little black boxes? Now this was irritating, as I could tell that these were people that had no intent on creating.
This is yet another instance I recall when Radlibs yelled at me because I was like, why are you posting a black box? It is stupid. Stop posting black boxes. You are actually not helping, but instead harming activists that are using the Black Lives Matter hashtag to get information across to as many people as possible. And people yelled at me because I made them feel bad, because they wanted to feel like they were helping. They wanted to feel like they were doing performative help. Slacktivism. How many times does this have to happen for people to finally come to that conclusion? The worst part about it is that it's not like when people realize that they might have been in the wrong, that they go back and go, hey, the guy who told me I was in the wrong initially that I yelled at, he might have been in the right. I've learned from my mistakes. I'm going to be a little bit more open-minded to what he's saying. Nope. They just carry on that resentment. They carry that resentment permanently and they just move on. Yeah. Similar thing happened with the AI Gaza pig. Is that Will's hat? No, we have the same hat, Chatter. It's funny though. No.
Justice or true change, but they only wanted to appease their conscience.
From here, the liberal media starts to jump on board. You start seeing men's razor blades telling you that young boys having a little wrestle is toxic masculinity.
Making the same old excuses.
Boys will be boys. Boys will be boys.
Ice cream tubs were talking to you about racism. Nike run Black Lives Matter adverts whilst also simultaneously paying children to work in sweatshops. An era of what would be dubbed corporate woke washing started to gain a lot of momentum and kind of defang the economic left-wing movement of Occupy Wall Street. After George Floyd was murdered, big corporations would come out making these statements about racism, donating to charities, etc. But, they were very quiet in perhaps supporting any economic policies like higher minimum wage, stronger unions, enhancing social welfare programs, things that might help the living conditions of people like George Floyd. Instead, these big businesses started to focus on pushing identity politics as the main leftist discourse. And to average people, you could see it. You could see there was a hypocrisy. If you're not going to improve the living conditions that create many of these social problems, then it kind of came across as empty and hollow, performative, so to speak. And so it created a reactionary right-wing movement.
I mean, you have talked about this woke mind virus. Yes. You should explain why you don't think it's hyperbole to say things like it's pushing civilization towards suicide.
2016 onwards, YouTube explodes with SJW cringe compilations. And whilst it seemed quite organic, various think tanks funded by billionaires were actually funding these anti-woke content creators, politicians, and policies. Things like the American Principles Project, the Clement Institute, the Heritage Foundation, the Stanford Review, Rupert Murdoch, who owns Fox News, The Sun, The Times, New York Post. All of these people would weaponize wokeness as the biggest existential threat to society.
David, am I overstating the fact that we're beginning to see the end of woke, the militarization of the Me Too movement and cancel culture?
The oil billionaires Dan and Faris Wilks, they would pump big money into...
Great video, dude. I mean, he is so dialed in. I've talked about all this stuff extensively, but goddamn, Jimmy the Giant really cooked on this one.
To things like PragerU and Daily Wire, who would push people like Ben Shapiro, Candace Owens, Tucker Carlson, Jordan Peterson, etc. Eventually manifesting itself in Peter Thiel, the tech billionaire, being the financial backing force of J.D. Vance, who would of course become vice president.
Some religions view the body as a temple, and some religions almost invite the pollution. I think the woke thing is inviting the pollution.
And so with all this financial muscle, the anti-woke industry became big business. The media becomes fully addicted to this culture war. YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter rewarded outrage content. And suddenly every fucking influencer was making videos about woke college kids.
Imagine being a parent and seeing your child in a video like this, looking deranged, screaming at a speaker.
Leading to this once united working class movement being divided into two camps. Right-wing people believing that wokeism is the root of all problems, and left-wing voters convinced that fascism was the root of all problems, rather than the economics that created this condition. And all the while we were fucking fighting each other, the actual elite were just laughing their fucking asses off because no one was talking about them anymore. You can see this concept of like wealthy billionaire class deliberately trying to push the blame onto something else depicted perfectly in this post from Elon Musk, where
he's not undermining the threat of fascism. He's saying that, and I don't agree with this assessment, I will say, because he's saying that like the left was like simply focusing on, you know, people being reactionary, people being racist, people being this or that. And instead of trying to bring like a unified message to the working class to hyper focus on economic issues, it is a little bit reductive because I think it removes the importance of fascism from this equation, because fascism is the inevitable outcome of capitalism. When capitalism fails and there's too much instability, fascism is a way to reassert the hierarchies to through dominance, through state power, through state violence, is a way to restructure and reorganize society and try to maintain that exact same hierarchy, the hierarchy of capitalism. So I think when people are yelling about fascists or fascism, they might be yelling specifically because they're upset at a, you know, racist person or a fascist person that's right in front of them. But I think combating fascism is still incredibly important, even from the economic agenda front.
He tries to shift the blame for society's economic problems onto certain billionaires, but obviously not him.
I'm saying what I care about is the reality of goodness, not the perception. And what I see all over the place is people who care about looking good while doing evil. Fuck them.
The culture wars successfully derailed the populist left movement. Corbyn was crushed by the media, Bernie Sanders was crushed by his own party, and the mainstream left of the Democrats and in Britain, the Labour Party, became these hollow parties with no actual backbone. And it just felt like the leaders were just puppets put in front of us, making the conditions for some kind of outsider to win support because, well, at least he's different to what we've got now.
The forgotten men and women of America will be forgotten no longer. That is the heart of this new movement. Hillary called them deplorable. They're not deplorable.
But you see, it gets even deeper than all that. So after that 2008 financial crash, right, where everything went wrong, capitalism basically failed, the US Federal Reserve dropped interest rates.
Grifting piece of shit. Get off your ass and make a difference, you lying fuck. You're just as bad, seek help in 2020. Dog, I don't think you're a happy guy. Contrary to what your username is, if you've been a hater since 2020 and you like briefly come in every 2 years, every 3 years, I feel like you're a little miserable, no? But yeah, give me some advice. What would you have me do? Do you want me to lead the vanguard in a proletarian revolution, a violent proletarian revolution? Is that what you're saying? If I was a grifter, I would whisper sweet nothings into your ear about how woke is ruining America, and you would love it. I would tell you that the only way to be honest online is by being reactionaries, by being bigoted, because everyone, yourself included, have these bigoted opinions, and the wokes are too afraid to admit it. That's what I would do, and I'd make a shit ton of money doing so too. Why does nobody grift to the left?
To 0%. For the next decade, mega corporations, investment banks, and asset managers like BlackRock and Vanguard had access to virtually unlimited 0% interest. Free money, basically, which they used to expand their control over the economy. Companies like Amazon, Google, Facebook, and Tesla were able to expand their businesses aggressively whilst they didn't have to make profits. Amazon, for example, weren't profitable for years. It just kept borrowing at a near zero cost, undercutting all of their competition until it just monopolized online retail. And many of these tech startups that dominate the world now did exactly the same thing.
Not one wealthy company on the planet Earth that is cash free, that does not use debt. I don't want to get out of debt. I want to create wealth. And the way to create wealth is through debt.
BlackRock and Vanguard started buying up entire neighborhoods of houses, outbidding regular people who needed homes. They turned houses into financial assets. As they dumped more money into it and the supply didn't keep up with the demand, it drove house prices to the moon, like we can see now, to the point that now young people are never going to be able to afford a house.
It's the largest investor on planet Earth with over $9 trillion in assets. That's a pile of cash equal to about 1/10 of a year's global economic activity.
BlackRock and Vanguard combined manage over $17 trillion of assets, an amount that is larger than the entire GDP of China.
No one deserves to have that much money, right? I mean, that's not like, I think if you do something that's good,
So not only were these bankers not punished for destroying the entire economy, it was the opposite. They were rewarded. They were given free money to buy everything up. Meanwhile, for regular people, our wages stagnated, house prices soared, and the cost of living kept rising. So yeah, that's pretty heavy, right? It's all very, very interesting. But I want to answer the final question, the most important question. Am I woke? Short answer, no. I wouldn't say so. I don't think so. Probably if you meet me in person, I'm not going to lead every conversation with my pronouns. I have close friends from different cultures and we'll probably take the piss out of each other's culture. Probably, if I see a lady on an airplane and she's trying to pick up her bag, I might offer to help her. Truly a bigot. But jokes aside, that doesn't mean that I don't think transphobia, homophobia, misogyny, racism, all the isms and schisms, that I don't think that they are incredibly important topics. They are. Women still earn less than men for the same jobs. And when they try and ask for more money, they tend to get penalized for doing so, whilst men tend to get rewarded for that same behavior. 77% of young people who are LGBTQ+, who when asked for what was the cause of their homelessness, cited that family rejection, abuse, and being asked to leave the family home was the reason. And like in my country, we had anti-immigrant riots that swept all over our country based on racist lies. And the fucking guy who nearly led the Tory party and is still in their party refers to immigrants as importing alien cultures. Like he says it like it's a fucking normal thing to say. These are incredibly real and very important topics that unfortunately due to the culture war have been commodified into like entertainment where we seem to be going backwards on these things.
What was the woke conversation that we were having? And I'm just going to throw it out there because there were so many about going back and forth, the right versus the left, when we just snuck in Roe v. Wade. Like, what's being snuck in right now?
And so all this leaves me with a question, like, what the fuck am I gonna do? Me. And like, look, I am just a guy. I'm just a guy. I'm not educated. But I do like want to try and help. I want to do my best to help. I've been blessed with this incredible platform, an incredible audience of you guys. And I also have the luxury of time and energy to focus in on trying to help. So my goal right now is to try and play my part in shifting the public discourse on inequality. The reality is right now, the middle class are shrinking. The poor are getting poorer. Wealth inequality is absolutely fucking all of us over.
The growing gap between rich and poor Americans is one of the biggest challenges facing the country. Get this, the richest 1% controls more wealth now than at any time in more than a half century.
Why it gets me pissed is because it's literally stealing my generation's hope for a good future, a fulfilling life, the ability to buy a house, to have a family. This meritocracy we live in just is mental. You have to work so unbelievably hard to get the bare minimum.
I work, my wife also works, but what we make as income is probably not enough. It's just minimum wage, so it doesn't cover the bills, the rent, and every other thing we need to pay for.
Look, I'm going to be fucking honest, right? I have 500,000 subscribers. I make good money. I do well. I went down the whole route of like grind set, self-improvement, dog eat dog, all of this stuff. I did all that. And I succeeded, right? I made something. It worked for me, right? But all I realistically got for it at the age of 30 is a mortgage on like an average size flat and an okay car. Don't get me wrong. I am truly blessed with what I have and I'm very happy. But what I have materially is what the average family would have had many years ago, earned on one wage whilst having 3 kids, working as a milkman. But I'm not a pessimist. I truly believe we can fix this.
That is
the more
true.
people we switch on to this message, the more.
That's a really good point. That is a really good fucking point. Like, this dude he's made it, right? 500,000 subs on YouTube. He's made it. He's famous. He has a house. He has a car. These are things that are like right now in this day and age, this is considered making it, right? And it's fucking nuts because what he's talking about are just like amenities that you're supposed to have with one singular job, with a single working parent household. It's wild that people can't comprehend that like we've lost sight of the American dream, right? Like the idea that you can just work a job, get good benefits, have kids, raise them, have a decent amount of time off, Like, think about it, dude. I got fucking canceled for buying a house, like for having a mortgage on a house for myself and my family as a socialism, by the way, as though I bought a fucking apartment complex and became a landlord. Like, that's the way people treated it. How fucking insane is that? It's reflective of how far removed we are from like normal living conditions. Okay, dude, it's a huge fucking house in Hollywood or wherever the fuck it is. It is kind of different, at least on the vibe check. Bro, what are you saying? First of all, it's a single family home in West Hollywood. And if you think it's a fucking mega mansion because of its price, you would be deluded. It's a normal size house. It's probably smaller than your parents' house in Connecticut, dumb fuck. Also, it doesn't matter. I didn't design the market. That's number one. Number two, it literally fucking doesn't matter. Like, think about it. Please, for a brief moment, take a deep breath and go, Hasan, having a house or renting out an apartment, does this change his commentary even a little bit? Does this change his worldview even a little bit? Who has explained to you that this is inherently hypocritical? Who? Was it me? Did I say that it's inherently immoral to own a house? No, I never said that. As a matter of fact, I want you to be able to own your own home as well. This is the problem. You treat this as though I'm some fucking televangelist who has a private jet and is like, yeah, I'll have to fly in a private jet. I can't be with undesirable sinners in a tin can. Like, it's so stupid. There's no like even normal exploitation in the way I fucking generate revenue too. You know how I generate revenue? You have subscribed to me. Times that fucking 45,000, 50,000, that's it. And you don't even have to. That's the craziest part about it. People are voluntarily saying, hey, I like your commentary. I want to give you $5 a month. I want to give you $6 a month. And initially it was because they wanted to avoid the ads. I don't even fucking run ads anymore. And people still subscribe. And people still gift subscriptions to the fucking chat. It's not like I'm giving you something extra even behind a paywall. I'm not. It's just perfect, completely voluntary. Getting mad at that is so psychotic. It's not like I'm fucking operating a sweatshop. And then people will go, well, Amazon is a hyper-exploitative company. It's like, okay, where is the non-hyper-exploitative company that I could be working at? that I could have a contracted gig, like a contracted wage structure with, where I could still reach the same amount of audience. It's funny because these attitudes actually come from people who, one, haven't put much thought into it and just basically go off the smell test. The notion that someone else is supposed to have a say on what kind of fucking house I took out a mortgage on is so stupid.
More that we can fight wealth inequality. So here is my plan. Currently, I am in talks with a publisher about potentially writing a book. We'll see where it goes, but the idea is to distill all of these ideas, these important bits of education that people need to understand into a...
Also, the other side of that that I think is really funny is when people go, you're advocating for these things, but you're rich, you fucking hypocrite. And it's like, what do you want me to do? You want me to change my entire worldview now that my finances are different? Is that what you want? This doesn't make any sense. Why would you want me to no longer be on your side? It's so stupid.